Will, who's more valuable to OKC? Is it Paul George or is it Westbrook?
It's Russell Westbrook. He's been the engine that drives that machine for some years. And here's the thing about Westbrook. You know what you're going to get. He is going to deliver for you. Paul George has had an amazing season. And if he keeps this up, a year from now, we may have a different conversation. But what I need to see from Paul George is this kind of performance, this kind of stepping up to the plate when it matters in the playoffs. We've seen the 4 for 17s. We've seen the 6 for 16s, the 8 for 21s from Paul George in the playoffs too many times. This is a nice regular season. But if you're asking me who's the most valuable, who's going to be there at the end of the season, who's going to drive this thing once again, and who's going to deliver for them in the playoffs, we know the answer is Russell Westbrook. We hope the answer is Paul George.
Actually, Westbrook hasn't delivered in the playoffs, and part of that is because the reason he's my favorite player is he's never cheated the fans on a single possession with his effort. He is all effort all the time, and given his skill, his talent, and the speed that he plays the game, that's amazing to me, even if his decisions aren't always the best. But part of the bad decision-making Westbrook's made in the playoffs is when he thinks his team needs more, he has a hard time letting go a little bit of the reins and letting the team play. He feels, because he's so competitive, he has to do more and more and more, and it backfires often. So I don't think you can say Westbrook's a proven great postseason player and Paul George isn't. I will say this about Westbrook this year. He's played great basketball in spite of the fact that he hasn't been shooting it well at all. But the best player on the team and the most important and the most valuable, it all means the same thing right now, is Paul George. Oh. We have always thought that, let's put it this way. Let's talk about the two-way wings, right? KD, Kawhi, and Paul George. That you could argue KD and Kawhi some seasons, but Paul George is clearly third in that pecking order. Not right now, folks. Not anymore. Not at present right now. Kawhi is third the way he's played this year. And I'm not even sure KD is 2 this year. Paul George is on that level. When you talk about MVPs of the league this year, there's the Freak. There is Harden. I think Steph deserves some mention. You could even give some, but not more than Paul George. Only the Greek Freak and James Harden, I think, are above Paul George in MVP consideration right now. This guy has been amazing, both sides of the floor. It's amazing that Westbrook has deferred to him in some respects as the best player on the team. He's the guy, Paul George.
Look, the most important player, best player is Westbrook. And the reason why is because he runs this engine. If he chooses that I want to have a 6 for 20 night, then he's going to do it. It's not through the structure of the offense. That's part of the reason why KD left. He was also the most important cog into convincing Paul George to stay. This is Russell Westbrook's team. They go how Russell Westbrook goes. That's why he is their MVP the way he has played. When he was shooting the ball poorly, and he was like, hey, look, I'm gonna do what I do. And really what he did is he kind of tweaked his game a little bit. He's deferring a little bit more. That means that he had the ability to defer. And Paul George has stepped up. He has answered the call because if he didn't answer that call, Russell was going to go back to what he's doing. And I'll give you a J. Kidd example. J. Kidd said when he was younger, he was going too fast. He was doing too much. He used to miss triple doubles by points because he was just so frantic. And once his athleticism slowed down and he had to think the game a little bit more, that's when his game took another level because it wasn't all athleticism. It wasn't let's just go faster, faster, faster. Very similar to Russell Westbrook. So when he gets going, right, in this mode, that's not good for them. When he starts to think the game like he has in the last month and a half.
Yeah, but I could replace Westbrook with a bunch of different point guards and you wouldn't say they got worse. You could only replace KD with, Paul George with a couple of players. If you replace Westbrook with Steph Curry, did they get better or worse?
When you say a bunch of
I'm going to start to name them. Steph Curry, better or worse? James Harden, better or worse?
You just said 2 MVP
Kyrie Irving, Kemba Walker, Damian Lillard. There are a lot of great point guards.
Slick. When you started going fast, the answer started to be yes.
Okay.
You said the 2 MVPs. You said 2 MVP candidates. Steph and Harden, that's a completely different story. And when you start getting to Kyrie and Kemba Walker, that's a completely different story.
Tell me, they really lose a lot if you...
Yes, you're losing 14, 12 rebounds a night. You're losing 14 assists a night.
But you're gaining a much better shooting percentage. You're gaining a lot too, guys.
You can't, but you're also gaining a size. Like Kemba Walker is great. Love him to death. But at the end of the day, he's a 5'9", 5'10" on a good day. He's not 6'3" and athletic.
Do you want to go over all the point guards in the league? There are a lot of
I think you, honestly,
ones.
I'm not trying to be cute. I think you illustrated the flaw in your argument when you went slow with the 2 MVP candidates he points out and then really fast with where Westbrook slotted in ahead of Kemba.
I understand what you're saying. Even if you think there's a marginal advantage for Westbrook over some of those other top point guards, find guys that are comparable to Paul George. After you say 2 or 3 names, you're done.
But don't say MVP candidates. At the end of the day, the 2 guys that you just said have never been first-team All-NBA, right? Neither of those guys have been first-team All-NBA. But
neither is Westbrook this year.
Westbrook, but I'm saying Westbrook has been an MVP. He's averaged triple-double for 3
right now.
But right now, I'm just talking about body of work. So we can't just say we can add
body of
point.
work?
We can add. You can't just say you're going to add point
Richard,
guards.
wait, hold
that'll
on.
be
Why
better.
are you giving him a body of? This is my favorite player. The dude's on his 3rd season of a triple-double. I get his greatness. I love Westbrook. I'm talking about right now. We're talking about who's the most valuable player on OKC right now. We're not going to Lifetime Achievement Awards. We're going
You
right
don't
now.
think Westbrook's the heartbeat of the team, and that's why
Yes.
PG even came back?
No,
He wouldn't have even
Max,
re-signed
That's not
without
the
him.
argument.
Max,
I agree with that. It's not the argument.
Right now is a really thin slice. And I can't tell you you're wrong today.
Sure.
But what I can tell you is, no matter what criticisms you have for Russell Westbrook in the playoffs, and I don't think they're off, and I've had some criticism for him as well, you have to acknowledge Paul George has been unreliable in the playoffs.
Yes.
He hasn't been this guy right now when it mattered.
Right, and neither has Westbrook.
Yeah, no, Westbrook hasn't. Westbrook has not either. So
To the extent that George...
Yeah, I would say they,
I would
they,
say,
they decline
I would say
equally,
Paul
yes.
George has had
Let's
better
get to your
playoff
team.
performances to me than Russell Westbrook.